Ms. Bernheim from the Consul General from France to help us, I guess, put a bit of perspective on as a host for the next session and COP21. So if you have you just do the same setup, a few opening remarks, and then we will hope to have some time for Q&A and a bit of discussion.
Hello, everybody, and thanks very much. Before turning to the context and the road from Lima to Paris, I would like to say a few words about the common goal we all share, Hong Kong and mainland China, how we can tackle together these challenges. Of course, China's role is crucial, and it has already shown some goodwill by its action to reduce, for example, reliance on coal. And our expectation from our Chinese partner is an ambitious domestic contribution to the future agreement. But in Hong Kong, too, you have issued an ambitious climate change agenda, and we are thankful for all of Hong Kong's efforts to push forward and carry out these objectives with cooperation with mainland China, in particular Guangdong province. So we can prepare together COP21 in Paris. It was mentioned Hong Kong will participate in the Chinese delegation, and so I'm sure it can influence by its ideas the Chinese delegation. And also the potentiality for cooperation in the green economy in Hong Kong is huge, as shown actually by an initiative which was made last year by the French Chamber of Commerce here, which gathered the Hong Kong government, some major businesses from all sectors, and some local universities to explore creative solutions in order to make Hong Kong a smart, green city in the future. For COP21, also, the states will need the cities to help reach the goals. And the international cities network, such as C40, in which Paris and Hong Kong are active, can deliver a message on our capacity to reverse the trend at local level and to help the governments find the appropriate path. So Hong Kong and Paris as a city, can pave the way to COP21 at their level too. As you know, France is very committed to struggle against what we call climate disruption, actually, which is a national priority since 2001. We already have one of the lowest levels of per capita greenhouse gas emissions of the developed countries, and we just adopted a new law in order to put up our ecological and energy transition. All that to say that France is well aware of the opportunities of such a transition and keen to share its experience with other countries who are planning or implementing such a transformation. We see climate change, and this is one of the motto of our presidency of the COP. We see it not only as a challenge, but also as an opportunity to innovate, to create jobs and growth, to improve energy security and competitiveness, and to improve health. So in line with its long commitment, France offered and has been accepted as the host for the next climate conference, and this is the top priority of French diplomacy this year. We are aiming at reaching a universal climate agreement, taking effect by 2020, focusing on mitigation and also adaptation, respectful of the principle of differentiation. This agreement should be sufficiently ambitious to undertake the transformation needed to meet the 2-degree goal, because there is no 4-degree, and there cannot be any 4-degree Celsius goal. If we reach 4 degrees, it means we're dead. It needs to have some common legal rules and be flexible enough to adapt in the years to come. I want also to insist on that point. It will not be the end of the story. The objective mentioned in this agreement will have to take into consideration the capacity of countries to contribute and to enforce international cooperation. In Lima, every country without exception expressed its will to sign an agreement in Paris in December 2015, and that was a unique historic achievement already. President panelists have explained what we can retain. Remember from Lima, the Lima Call for Action. Concretely, the talks will resume in February in Geneva, aiming at producing a draft agreement in May. INDC, we have the November deadline where the UNFCCC will produce its report, and there were other progress as mentioned. In 2015, the role of the French chair is to ensure the transparency of the process and to work with all countries to support the adoption of a UCA. Even if COP20 confirmed that almost all parties want this UCA, it's clear that little progress was made on the substance of such an agreement. But we consider it as actually quite, it was expected, quite understandable. If interesting discussions took place on the different possible options, the parties didn't give yet their defensive position. It's absolutely normal 1 year before the last negotiation. So France is going throughout the year to conduct transparent discussions on the key points, including differentiation between developed and developing countries, the legal form of the agreement, adaptation and funding, so that we make sure that the identification of compromises for these issues are not left to the last weeks of the conference, even to the last days or last hours of the conference. Our motto, I will finish by that for this conference, very classical: listening, ambitious, spirit of compromise. Our aim is that COP21 should not be a conference of constraints, it should be a conference of solutions. The problem is very serious, it's affecting the planet, but everybody can also contribute, not only states, but non-state actors, business communities, NGOs, cities, regions. Solutions are at help to help us cope with it and bring development, jobs, and comfort. So, of course, we are positive about what's going to happen next. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clearly, some very high expectations from the host coming up for the next event. To make this a success, 4 degrees is not possible. We've got to do better than that. So on that note, I think the remaining discussion should now be focusing on Hong Kong and how can Hong Kong contribute to make that successful. And I'd like to ask Ms. Alexandra Boakes Tracy from ASrIA to perhaps give us some insight from the finance sector from the finance sector in terms of what contribution we can make through that out of Hong Kong as well.
Okay, thank you, Hendrik. Thank you for the invitation to speak today, and thank you to all of you for coming. I'm very clear in the context of this discussion, the role of Hong Kong's financial services sector is to fund the transition to a green economy. Now I'll defer to Christine to talk more about the other roles that Hong Kong is playing, but I think that given our limitations as a manufacturing and technology centre, funding climate mitigation and adaptation activities to be carried out elsewhere in China and Asia is one of the most powerful contributions that Hong Kong can make to increasing low carbon development and resilience. Now, we don't need to wait for Paris in Hong Kong. Yes, there's uncertainty, but it's also been mentioned that the business community is taking its own steps, and the financial services sector needs to be taking a lead on climate finance in Hong Kong now. And in this, as you all know, Hong Kong can play to its strengths. First of all, we're regarded as one of the safest and most efficient places to do business in Asia. We have a very strong professional services sector. Here we are in PwC, accounting, law firms, insurance, and of course the various elements of the financial services sector. And particularly, we're a key financial sector centre for the region, where all kinds of debt and equity funding is raised for companies to expand and grow and develop their businesses. And already I'd like to emphasise that this does include a large amount of capital being raised for companies in renewable energy and other clean technologies. So just to give you a few examples of large listed companies in Hong Kong, of course we have CLP, the poster child, you know all about them. Huaneng Renewables Corporation, China Longyang Power, two of the largest wind power companies in China, China Everbright, which is very active in waste to energy, biomass. I mean, there are lots and lots of examples. And I thought I'd like to mention just a couple of companies that we listed over the last 12 months here in Hong Kong. Dynagreen Environmental and Canvest Environmental. These are both China waste to energy companies. Kanda, which is waste management, Osna Water, and of course CGN Power, which is China's largest nuclear power company, with a $3 billion IPO in Hong Kong in December. Now, nuclear, controversial for some, but this deal was completely marketed as a low carbon play, and investors loved it. It was very, very successful. We also have private equity here, of course. All of the international shops are here, many of them looking at clean technology. And I think it's important to stress that although equity sometimes seems to get all the mention, in fact, most of the capital that funds businesses is coming from the debt side. It's coming from banks. We've heard from HSBC, I see Standard Chartered in the room somewhere. I mean, these players are channeling huge amounts of funds, both directly by lending to companies which may carry out green businesses, but also by financing infrastructure projects directly in the project finance business. Now, this is a very specialized, a very complex area, but here in Hong Kong, we have a huge amount of expertise and experience with it. Just to give you one example, you may have heard of the Burgos wind power project in the Philippines. And a large group of Philippine and foreign banks together agreed to provide $315 million US dollars to finance the construction of this project. Now, this is a complicated deal and also a very challenging deal in this market and with this technology. But they got it done through a combination of tried and tested methodologies, but also, which is my third point about Hong Kong, financial innovation. Now, I've given you all these examples because I want to emphasize again significant expertise that is located in this city, in this sector. And we can build on these existing skills to fund the transition to a green economy, as I said at the beginning, using financial innovation. Sometimes this means adapting some of the established methodologies for different projects, as in the Philippines example. Sometimes it's about bringing together different parties. So individual companies or investors all have different skills and experiences. They have varying appetites for taking risks. So to put together a financing package, we might need a group who are each comfortable with particular aspects of the project to work together. And sometimes that group will include a government body, or a quasi-public sector body like the World Bank, or like the UN, the Green Climate Fund, which we can talk about more. Because these players can support parts of the project that private sector actors sometimes find difficult. Sometimes financial innovation is about creating new instruments. We heard about green bonds earlier. That market reached $37 billion US last year. There's a lot of hype around it. Carbon markets, trading carbon credits. I think Andrea is here somewhere. This is banging her drum for her. Huge amount of potential to use carbon credit. Securitization, without going into details, ways to group together lots of small projects to make it easier for investors to put money into them. And here we have a lot of scope, particularly for energy efficiency, retrofit, environmental services, those kind of companies that sometimes find it difficult to get bank lending. And also, we need to come up with creative solutions for financing off-grid power, distributed energy, even adaptation in rural communities, which on the face of it might seem incredibly unappealing as a commercial prospect. But these things are happening, and there are ways to do this. So, as you can tell, my message here is that Hong Kong should absolutely be a centre of financial innovation and funding for low-carbon businesses. As I've said, we build on our strengths, our track record. We, of course, have particularly close ties with China, and Christine may talk about the links with Guangdong that were mentioned earlier. a lot of work that is going on there in low carbon efforts. Hong Kong is a very strong market. We have a AAA credit rating. Not many people have those nowadays, and there are lots of things that one can do with a AAA credit rating to help channel the flow of funds. It does require conversations with the government. And I think that Hong Kong can play a large role in skills transfer and capacity building for other parts of this region, the more emerging countries where the skills are not so embedded, but where they really need the money. So this is my message to both the public and private sector players in Hong Kong. I'd like to emphasize to the government, the HKMA, to the Hong Kong Jockey Club pension funds, to all of you out there in professional services and business. This is an enormous opportunity for Hong Kong. It's already happening, but there is a huge potential to scale up and will deliver enormous value.
Thank you very much.